Okay, here's the kicker. Get this. Saudi Arabia is having a comedy festival this month. Really? Saudi Arabia. It's gonna be great. If you die on stage, you get 72 virgins. And Chappelle is performing. If you told me years ago that Saudi Arabia would be cool to have Dave Chappelle speak and England might arrest him, I would have said, what are you smoking?
The radical left's assault on free speech has hit a breaking point. Their latest stunts make it clear they have no plans to ease up. With his signature razor-edged wit, he tore through the woke mob's nonsense with surgical precision, leaving the room stunned. This wasn't casual commentary. It was an outright takedown, the kind that leaves nothing standing. Get ready, because what's coming isn't smoke, it's straight fire. Let's jump in.
It's the great irony. Flag burning is free speech, and free speech is one of the key things that makes America great. So now that I have you on my side on that issue, don't be a hypocrite and defend attacks on speech from the left, because you either get the concept or you don't. And sadly, a lot of people don't anymore.
BillMaher cuts straight to the core of the irony. The left champions free speech as a sacred principle, yet weaponizes outrage to silence dissent. In their bubble, speech is allowed only if it's filtered through their ideology. Step outside, and you're instantly branded a bigot, a threat, or worse. Maher exposes this hypocrisy with razor-sharp precision, reminding us that free speech isn't a privilege for one side. It's a universal right, even for voices the left would rather erase.
Young, who were never taught it by their derelict educational system, but also Lisa Cook. She's the Fed board member Trump is trying to fire for bullshit reasons, and they are bullshit. But when she tried to get another professor fired because he once, according to one student, was less than rapturous about Martin Luther King Day, no, she should know better. She said free speech should have its limits. Yes, it should, and does. And this comes nowhere close to them.
Lisa Cook's case is telling. It highlights the danger of activist academics who use their classrooms not to educate, but to enforce ideology. Reports indicate she pressured colleagues and students to adopt her worldview instead of fostering open debate and critical thinking. That isn't education, it's indoctrination. Her firing is justified because no professor should be allowed to turn the classroom into a soapbox for personal agendas. This isn't about silencing free speech. It's about pushing back against the corruption eating away at our universities and protecting students from propaganda disguised as scholarship.
It's bad enough that Trump is attacking free speech from the right, throwing the Associated Press out of the press pool, calling reporters enemy of the people, threatening and suing networks simply because he doesn't like the coverage. This country can't become that. But it also can't become what the UK is now, a place where you get arrested for tweets, something that happens 12,000 times a year now in Britain. Last week, the Irish sitcom writer Graham Linehan, who's won an Emmy and 5 BAFTA awards, got off a plane at Heathrow and got arrested by 5 British cops. Not because he was selling drones to the Houthis, just because he's a crank who spends way too much time online ranting about gender ideology.
Once again, I part ways with Maher here. Free speech isn't a blank check. It comes with boundaries, and for good reason. Look at the Associated Press. They were expelled for insisting on calling it the Gulf of Mexico instead of recognizing it as the Gulf of the U.S. That wasn't some innocent mistake. It was a calculated jab against national interest. And then there's the infamous 60 Minutes lawsuit. Trump was right to push back because the bias was glaring. The program bent over backward to boost Kamala Harris. If Trump had been the one giving that explosive interview, you know they would have aired it raw, unfiltered, and completely unedited just to take him down.
Which is an odd obsession for a comedian from across the pond, because if men weren't allowed to dress as women, British comedy wouldn't exist. There'd be absolutely nothing left of Shakespeare but the sonnets, and Monty Python movies would be 20 seconds long. But in the words of that great Brit, Ricky Gervais, if you don't believe in a person's right to say things that you might find grossly offensive, then you don't believe in freedom of speech. You shouldn't have to eat your words at the airport. The chicken Alfredo on the flight was bad enough.
Freedom of speech isn't a privilege reserved for the few. It's a God-given right of every person, the foundation of liberty that neither government nor mob should ever trample. The moment we let one group dictate who gets to speak and who must be silenced, we abandon democracy itself. Disagreeing with someone's words doesn't grant the authority to erase their voice. Debate them, challenge them, counter them with stronger arguments, but don't cancel them into silence. A free society thrives on diverse opinions, not enforced uniformity. Silencing dissent doesn't create harmony, it breeds tyranny. That's why defending free speech isn't optional. It's essential.
Linehan may be crude, but there's plenty of non-crazy people, liberal people, who think the left has gone a little mad with trans issues. Some have expressed that opinion with literary sophistication, like J.K. Rowling. Some by getting big laughs, like Dave Chappelle. And some are downright ugly about it, like Linehan. But ugly is the price of a freedom so great as speech.
Many have paid a steep price for daring to question the trans movement or the broader gender ideology. In today's climate, even respectful disagreement is treated as heresy. The celebrities Trump pointed to are clear examples. Some were ruthlessly canceled, losing endorsements, roles, or entire careers, while others faced harassment, intimidation, and even legal trouble simply for expressing an opinion outside the approved narrative. That isn't freedom, it's coercion. When society punishes people for speaking uncomfortable truths, it's not progress, it's authoritarianism disguised as tolerance. And if public figures can be silenced this way, every freedom-loving citizen should be deeply alarmed.
Trump tried to disappear someone for writing an anti-Israel op-ed in a student newspaper, which I found offensive, but I still would go to the mat for that person to be able to print it. And we can fight Trump on this because we have a First Amendment. England does not. And the fact that they don't, that's not a feature, that's a bug. And it's a bug that's going around Europe now. In Germany, a guy called a politician a Pimmel, which is the German word for dick, and it triggered a police raid. What a Pimmel move.
This moment is a powerful reminder of how fortunate we are in the United States, and why we must fiercely defend our right to free speech. Unlike in much of the world, Americans can still question authority, challenge institutions, and speak their minds without the constant fear of prison or death. But that freedom is fragile, and the greatest threats often come from within. When groups attempt to control speech by deciding who may be heard and who must be silenced, that isn't liberty, it's domination. People must be free to voice their opinions openly, even when those opinions are controversial or unpopular. If they cross the line into breaking the law, they should be held accountable, but never silenced simply for speaking. Free speech is the bedrock of freedom, and once it's surrendered, winning it back is nearly impossible.
A guy from North Yorkshire in Britain faced 2 years in prison for wearing a Halloween costume depicting the terrorist who bombed the Ariana Grande concert. Bad taste? Yeah, bad taste is the whole point of Halloween. This Scottish man was found guilty of hate speech for a YouTube video where he taught his pug to salute when he said Sieg Heil.
Sieg Heil. Sieg Heil.
Elon Musk watched it and said, I don't see it.
I remember the uproar over Elon Musk's alleged Nazi salute and the wave of controversy it unleashed across mainstream media and the internet. Headlines blared, pundits piled on, and social media erupted with outrage. But amid all the noise, one crucial difference set the U.S. apart from much of the world. No police showed up at Musk's door. He wasn't dragged into court or thrown in jail for making a gesture people found offensive. Instead, he faced what every public figure in a free society should expect: criticism, debate, and backlash. And that's exactly how it should be. Free speech gives you the right to speak or act, and it gives others the right to challenge you in return. What it does not allow is criminalizing expression. That incident was a stark reminder of why America must protect speech, even the speech we despise.
Kanye, this fucking dog. They're all wrong, and they all have the right to be wrong. Britain is now considering the so-called pub law. Okay, it's not just about pubs. It's a workplace bill aimed at preventing any kind of harassment in the workplace, including verbal remarks overheard. Okay, problem is, a pub is a workplace. So is a bookstore. Would a major chain like Waterstones risk hosting a book signing by a controversial author like J.K. Rowling? And pubs? People go to pubs for two reasons: to drink and to exercise their inalienable right to talk shit.
I truly believe Britain is heading down a dangerous path by pandering to the left and steadily eroding free speech. In many ways, it's already worse than America. What the censors fail to see is that this kind of suppression always backfires, often in the most destructive ways. The frightening reality is that it's no longer just about what you post online. The workplace itself has become a surveillance zone. Say something someone deems offensive, and suddenly you're reported, investigated, or even hauled in for questioning. That isn't democracy. It's a slow march toward authoritarianism. And the irony? All this noise and speech policing isn't about protecting society at all. It's about appeasing a fringe woke mob that feeds on outrage and intimidation. If Britain stays on this course, it won't just silence dissent. It will dismantle the very freedoms that once defined the nation.
They're not in the House of Lords. They're in a bar called the Drunken Cock. Any Brit will tell you the food is awful, the weather sucks, but at least you can call each other a cunt. And now that's gone? It's like making a rule at the dog park: no ass sniffing.
Bill is absolutely right. To strip away our ability to speak freely is to strip away a God-given right as essential as life itself. Free speech isn't a privilege granted by government or curated by cultural elites. It's a fundamental truth of human existence. No side, no matter how powerful or loud, holds the authority to decide what can be said or who may say it. The moment one group dominates the conversation and silences the rest, liberty is already lost. A society that only permits approved speech isn't free, it's controlled. And history proves that when free speech falls, every other freedom soon follows. That's why it is non-negotiable. The right to speak, to debate, to question, and yes, even to offend, is the lifeblood of democracy. Without it, we're nothing more than subjects of the mob or the state. Protecting it is not optional, it's essential.
Okay, here's the kicker. Get this. Saudi Arabia is having a comedy festival this month. Really? Saudi Arabia. It's gonna be great. If you die on stage, you get 72 virgins. And Chappelle is performing. If you told me years ago that Saudi Arabia would be cool to have Dave Chappelle speak and England might arrest him, I would have said, "What are you smoking?"
Even countries that once crushed dissent are beginning to recognize the value of free speech, or at least loosening their grip on it. Take Saudi Arabia, for example. Not long ago, speaking out against authority could mean disappearance, imprisonment, or worse. The state controlled every aspect of expression, using fear to keep people silent. Yet today, we're seeing signs of change. The same nation once infamous for silencing voices is now welcoming some of America's most outspoken comedians, performers who make their living by pushing boundaries, poking fun at power, and challenging cultural norms through humor. It's a striking transformation. Saudi Arabia still has a long road ahead, but its willingness to host entertainers who thrive on free expression proves the undeniable global pull of the principle. And if even former hardline regimes are warming up to free speech, Western democracies have no excuse to slide backward into censorship. Free speech is the cornerstone of liberty, not a privilege reserved for the few. The moment we let mobs, governments, or elites dictate who may speak, freedom begins to collapse. Even nations once hostile to dissent are moving, slowly, toward openness. If we fail to defend free expression with the same determination, we risk losing everything. And that wraps up today's video. If you found this valuable, be sure to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.